Listen in with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a standout from the world of rugby. He split time between Delaware and Florida, where he emerged as one of the top rugby players in high school. After a brief stint in the college ranks, he went on to play for the Houston SaberCats of Major League Rugby from 2018 to 2020. He recently competed for Team USA's rugby team at the Tokyo Olympics, where they placed 6th in their highest finish since the 2016 games in Rio. It's Malacchi Esdale. He joins this live stream of Listen In with KNN right now. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. Welcome into another live stream edition of Listen In with KNN Sports Talk Radio Show and podcast presented right here on our home station, Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM with me, your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And now I have to give a big thanks to you all for continuing to join the show. It's been a long summer, but you all have just been loyal and faithful. And for that, I appreciate you. And also just a big shout out to my team who always gets the job done. I am so excited today for the special guest, because I know football's going on. I know preseason is happening, but look, we're transitioning over to the world of rugby, and we're going to talk about the Olympic Games that were. And so joining me today as my very special guest for the first time on the show is USA Rugby men's 7th Olympic athlete and Olympic rugby star, Malacchi Esdale. He's joining me all the way from the West Coast too, so I appreciate him joining me early. So without further ado, please help me welcome Malacchi onto the show. Malacchi, how are you today?
What's up? How you doing? Thanks for having me, Kelsey.
It's my pleasure. So excited to have you. First off, good morning to you. How are you feeling? How are you doing? I like to do a wellness check first with my guests.
I'm feeling good. Thank you for checking in with me.
Of course, my pleasure, my honor. So since you got back from the games, what have you been up to? How do you keep yourself busy?
Oh, man, I just been relaxing, to be completely honest with you.
You deserve it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I just been, taking care of my body, recharging, resetting resetting everything, and just taking advantage of the time that I have off. Definitely seeing a lot of family, friends, catching up with them. So, a lot of people for the Olympics, they commit so much time and everything, so you don't get to really, have some time for yourself. So definitely treating myself to some spa days and
You deserve it. You deserve everything and more. Sleeping in afternoon and no one bothering you, because you have just dedicated so much. I think that's something we forget sometimes when we're watching the Olympic Games, is the sacrifice that you all make to do that. So I feel like you're probably the most popular person in your family now, right? Now that you got back from the Olympic Games.
I took that title, for sure.
Everybody has questions. Let's start with that. So you just got back from Tokyo. Of course, you're with the USA Rugby men's national team. You all were competing as Team USA among 12 teams that were competing for gold. Let's first talk about that experience. All right. So you're a traveling reserve for Team USA. Was it your first time in Tokyo?
So it was my first time in Tokyo, yes.
All right. So how was that experience? Did you feel like you learned a lot about the culture and the people?
Yes, it was amazing. The people were so humble and hospitable. So we flew into Mimosaka. We stayed in Mimosaka for a week.
Yeah.
They held us to like a little camp. They were just hosting us, and they got to show us like what their culture was about. We met the mayor of the city and everything like that. Yeah, so
awesome. Y'all were celebs.
Yeah, I know, it was crazy. It was crazy. They were showing a lot of love. It was obviously like a little bit restricted,
right?
More restricted because of COVID and stuff. So we got to mingle with as many people as we could in like a safe capacity. But no, the people were amazing. The culture was good. And my favorite food is ramen. So I was loving it.
I know it was good. That's that real ramen. That's all the stuff
loving it
here. That is great to hear. The food was good. The culture was good. I think the COVID aspect, though, was an important part of this year's games. Of course, the Olympics was delayed a year because of COVID-19. But then we saw, unfortunately, some of the numbers begin to spike in Tokyo. So can you talk about some of those safety precautions that you all kind of adhered to and how you all stayed safe and were able to kind of help the games continue to go on?
Yeah, of course. So they had us taking COVID tests every morning. Fortunately, it was the saliva test, so you didn't have to get like your brain poked.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst.
Yeah, no, it sucks. And then they just had like tracking apps, so pretty much like to monitor if you were coming in close contact with anybody. And then some weird protocols they had were the cardboard beds. I don't know if you heard about that, but
I saw that. I heard they were not the most comfortable, as you can imagine.
So they were trying to avoid multiple people having pillow fights in beds, whatever.
No pillow fights at the Olympics.
No pillow fights. And so yeah, those were like a few of the precautions. But I mean, once you're in a village, like everybody was there with the intention of not getting COVID.
Of course, right?
Most of us were tested. Most of us had the vaccination. A lot of us had the vaccination.
Yeah.
We were getting tested every day, so everyone was straight, like pretty much in the village, So when we could stop and talk and chat, and just for like a brief second, we would do that. So
you would, yeah. I think you touched on so many important parts. I think the vaccination part is something I want to go talk to you with, because that's been a big topic of conversations, not just for the Olympics, but athletes as a whole, right? We're having that conversation now in the National Football Leagues. I don't know your vaccination status, but for you, when you decided to get vaccinated or not be vaccinated, kind of what was going through your mind and your head as you were trying to prepare for going to the Olympic Games and trying to stay safe in the midst of a global pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, my thought process was just trusting our medical system. I know I have a few ladies in my family that are in the medical profession, and they were giving me a lot of advice on that and stuff. And then we had our own team doctors and medical professionals that were coming in and talking to us and saying like, hey, listen, if you're like worried about getting the vaccine, we're just going to give you the facts. You can take the facts and do whatever you want with them, but they were giving us all the facts so we could make an informed decision off of that.
Right.
Me personally, I am vaccinated, and I think it just would have been a lot harder if I wasn't to complete the process, because when we got to Tokyo or to Mimosaka, we were in like limbo at the airport for 5 hours. If you weren't vaccinated, you would have been there for the entire day. So like there's little stuff like that would have like just sped up the process a little bit. And
I appreciate you touching on that too. So I'm vaccinated too, and like you, I trusted science, right? I didn't go to school to be a doctor. I'm trusting what they say, and of course, it's unfortunate. We're seeing these, just rising number of cases, and then to the Olympics point, we unfortunately saw some athletes that even weren't able to compete this year because of their COVID status. And you work so hard to get to the games, and to have something taken away, I can only imagine, what it's going through. And I know a lot of people have questions, but there is information out there, I trust our scientists and doctors too. I don't think
it's better to be safe than sorry too, especially like you just said, like some people are getting they're getting all the way there and then they can't even compete. Like that's a waste of time.
Exactly. All that you put into it, your family's ready to root for you, and then all of a sudden, boom, that can happen. So I'm glad you touched on that again. Just glad you stayed safe. And I know also I was hearing that athletes in the eating like dinery that you all had, you guys weren't supposed to eat there for a long time, right? It was like a couple 10 minutes and then you had to get out and go.
You gotta scarf it down, put it in a blender, drink it, whatever you gotta do.
In real fast, right? Yeah. But it goes to just the precautions that Team USA was making for these Olympic Games. And of course, it wasn't like any other. There's been no Olympics like this. We're hoping it's not like this for the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. But you have to kind of applaud, I feel like, the job that was done. Because I feel like overall, we didn't hear about any crazy breakout. Yeah. It seems like everything that they did was working, right? I know you guys think you could probably interact as much as you wanted to, but it seemed like it worked, right?
It could have been a lot worse. And Tokyo did a really good job of keeping everything under control. And making all the rules that kept people in line. So it was good. It was a good experience. Good experience. With everything given, it was a very good experience. So
yeah,
one that I remember.
Hearing that. And I know this was like the largest U.S. delegation that we've had, which was amazing. So were you a part of the opening ceremony? Did you get to kind of be a part of that experience, Malacchi?
So I personally was not in there in the opening ceremony, but there were a lot of athletes that chose not to, just out of like a little kind of like paranoia. They didn't want to get sick before their events.
Right, COVID.
And so there were like events that had already started. So people were like, hey, like I would rather not participate in that because my event's so close and they don't want to be like around a bunch of people. But the opening ceremony was definitely, it was lit. It was lit. I saw it on the TV screen, and it was crazy. So
yeah, it was great to see. I love seeing, our Team USA all decked out in Ralph Lauren, just looking amazing, representing our country. It's always an important part of the games, and I think something that really brings us all together as we're watching. And now let's talk about the rugby side of things at the Olympics. U.S. men's rugby finished 6th, which was their highest finish in an Olympic Games. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what went right so far. Of course, I know you want to finish in first place, but kind of what are you most proud of that experience of your squad and your team?
So this has been a building process. So everything that you see has been years and years and years of build up. So first of all, I got to give huge kudos to all the boys that were like here before us and that really laid the foundation for this, because rugby is not the biggest sport in America. We have so many other sports to compete with. We have basketball, football, baseball, and now even soccer with the MLS and stuff. So it took a lot to get to this point. So all the people that came before us and laid that foundation, like you really got to give props to them. So they were the ones that saw this through. It was like people that played here in the past and made those sacrifices that now we're getting to like enjoy. Like the Olympics just got reinstated, so the last Olympics, they were the ones that were the pioneers for a chance. So so they did a great job of representing us and just sticking to the program and buying in and being all in. So I got to give huge thanks to them. We obviously didn't finish as well as we did, but again, like it is a process. So for the people that are coming here in the future, the younger guys that are coming through, they have a perfect example on how to play. So they're all the older guys, they've set like the culture. That's the benchmark. To do, and that the younger guys are going to come in and hopefully provide just a little bit of a different approach with it, but we have like the benchmark of how we should be as a team, and they just laid the perfect foundation. So that
is amazing to hear. And I know, we talk about younger guys. You're what, 25? You're not that old. So as we think about the future Olympics, is this something are you already thinking about 2024, Malacchi, and hopefully preparing for that Olympic Games, trying to make that U.S. Olympic team, or is that too far kind of out of sight and you're kind of just focusing on at hand?
Absolutely. I think these next couple of years it's gonna go by like that.
Yeah.
Especially with it being only 3 years away.
Right.
A lot of these guys are like really looking forward to it. Like we're right back on the horse. We get to, quickly correct the mistakes that we made and build on this past Olympics,
Yeah.
And the time is, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect because you don't want to lose sight of what happened in the last one. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
We didn't do as well, but this is going to make us hungry for the next Olympics. So.
Yeah, we're looking forward for that gold for the next Olympic Games.
We're getting that gold.
We know rugby is going to only continue to grow. And as we talk about that, you talked about rugby not being as popular in the United States. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the growth of the game, because I think it has grown over the years. But also, I want to hear from you as a player. How do you think we can kind of continue to grow the game of rugby? Because I think people like the games. Like when I'm watching people watch it in the Olympics, they're like, I like this. Like this is great. But it's like, how do we get more exposure to it? How do we get more fans? Again, I want to hear from you as a player from the inside looking out. What can we all do kind of to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the MLR, the implementation of the MLR Professional Rugby League in America is going to do like wonders for the sport here. I would say the easiest way to grow it is just start them young. Like it has to be like one of those sports like growing up, like everybody puts their daughter or son into soccer. Like that's the first sport that most people play. Like you can do the same thing with rugby. You just obviously they're not like around smacking each other and stuff.
Yeah, but
it's gotta,
fundamentals and things like that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. It's got to start with the youth, I think. So with the implementation of the MLR, like a lot of the teams have youth programs. So they're trying to grow the sport from the bottom up, starting with the youth and stuff. And that's when the skill set comes in as well. Everybody, is used to throwing a baseball or throwing a football or whatever. Like if they get used to throwing a rugby ball at a young age, they're going to have that skill set, and then we'll catch up because America has the best athletes.
I agree. I might be biased, but I agree. Yeah. I think we have the best.
Might be a little biased too, right? But we have the best athletes, and if they can just get that skill set at an early age, then it's going to be crazy. But the MLR has been fantastic. Like I started playing 15s. There's two different genres of the sport. It's 15s and then 7s.
Right.
So I started off playing 15s, 7s is in the Olympics and like the World Series tour. And I've just seen the growth from like the beginning. Like it is insane. Like teams now are building their own stadiums and selling out stadiums and
amazing to see.
All the teams have the blue check on Instagram. Like it's
they're officially official, right?
Yeah. Check. So it's getting there.
Looking back, if you knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your childhood, would rugby be your first sport? Would you say?
I just had this thought like the other night. I was like, dang, like if I would have played rugby my whole life, I would be crazy good.
Yeah, right. I mean, think about it. But it's like, but this is why life is a journey and not a destination, right? You learn so much along the way. But to that point, I do know there's some concerns right now with football, with the safety of the game. And I believe some people might have that same concern with rugby since you guys are literally out there, right? It's your body. Yeah. That's your shield. So like to parents out there who are thinking about rugby for their child, but maybe they're just scared of the safety aspect, what would you say to them?
So I would say both sports can be dangerous.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way, you will be safe.
Yeah.
I have played football at a very high level, collegiate level, and then rugby at the highest level. So in my comparison, I actually think that rugby is a little bit safer just because you don't have that false sense of protection with the helmet and stuff. So you're tackling a lot differently if you're not wearing.
Yeah, your head is your head. Exactly.
And I like to take care of my face. Like I consider myself kind of a pretty boy, so I'm not trying to get
nothing's messing up the brand.
Yeah, I'm avoiding all of that. So I'm using proper technique. So that's the advice I would offer is like, as long as your coach is teaching you the proper way to tackle, then it should be safe and you can avoid all injuries. So not all injuries, you're still gonna get messed up, but the bad ones. You might get some cosmetic stuff here and there, broken finger or something.
Put a Band-Aid on it, act like you're Nelly or something. I don't know, right? But it's nothing that'll be major. I'm glad you touched on that again, but I think it's exciting to see. I do hope we see more young people get into the sport of rugby so we can continue to make our Olympic team strong with the future generation. And you touched on kind of just growing up in young people. Let's talk about your background, right? So originally from Newark, Delaware, and then you moved to Naples, Florida. Florida known for top athletes. Let's talk about that move and transition for you, though. Was it easy for you? Was it hard for you? And kind of how were you able to establish yourself in Florida as a top athlete?
Yeah, so I kind of made the decision with my mom and grandma. Delaware was, it's a great place, but it was like a little bit small for my liking. I kind of wanted to, explore like a bigger pool of talent per se. And actually, I went down there to play basketball.
Yeah.
I ended up living with my grandma, and she lived next to a really good public school out there.
Yeah.
And their sports teams were, fantastic. So transitioning to that, it was like night and day. Like there were some really good athletes in Florida, and and I caught on quickly. I think it was just because, I was like pretty determined at a young age. It's weird to say that because like 14-year-olds, like they're thinking about, I don't know, whether the candy and whatever.
Smaller things, right?
Yeah. But I was like really determined to like, just to play sports at like a higher level. So the transition, I would say it went well. And that's probably due to, my coaches and the friends that I made like along the way. And And that's like going back to your point about the journey and stuff. Like it was definitely a different and interesting journey, but I think it shaped me to, the athlete and the person that I am today. So it was good though. It was good. Florida was all love. That's like my second home. So Shout out to all my Florida people.
So you were at both. You got like 2 hometowns, right? You're like, I shout out to Delaware, shout out to Florida. I think it's great. And you're right. I mean, Florida is known for many great athletes. You talked about playing basketball. And then in high school, you played wide receiver and football too, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you're being humble. And then a sprinter and high jumper in track.
I was decent.
You were doing everything. And that's another point, when we talk about kind of the young people and kids, do you also think that it's important to kind of be multi-sport athlete in high school? Because I'm sure you use some of those skills that you learned from other sports today in rugby, right?
So yes, touching back on the journey point again, I think that rugby is like a culmination of all the different sports. Like you have the spatial awareness of soccer.
Yeah.
Like the vision of basketball, the physicality of football. So
right.
I think that my like diversity in sports like definitely benefited me when I made the transition to rugby.
Right.
So yeah, I would say to any kid, like regardless if you want to play rugby or not, but just explore like play as many sports as you can while you can, like before it gets too serious and you gotta choose one. So
it's important. No, that's what childhood is about, right? Exploring, exploration, finding out what you like and what you don't like, right?
Exactly.
But also I think you learn something from each sport, like you said, that can be tools. And you might not even be thinking about it, but you're going to be end up using it. Not even just in sports, but in life, right? That things that you learn from sports. So I'm glad that you touched on that. But also in high school, you began playing rugby with the Naples Bears Rugby Club. So kind of tell me about that process. Like what just all of a sudden made you interested in the sport of rugby to knock on this team's door and say, hey, I want to play?
That is actually probably one of the weirder stories I have. So I was in we were finishing up the football season. I actually dislocated my shoulder in a playoff game. Yes. So while I was waiting for surgery, I had the bright idea to start playing rugby. I don't know what possessed me.
Wow.
I think one of my friends.
Rugby though, like did you watch something? Like
So one of my friends approached me.
Okay.
The Naples Bears at the time were a pretty successful high school club, and he was like, hey, like, do you want to win a championship with us? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but yes, I do.
Who doesn't want a ring?
Yeah, exactly. He was like, you want a ring? He was like, you want to wear this? I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. So I'm like just getting out of a sling, waiting to get surgery. I played like 1 or 2 games. It was like the best time of my life. Like I had so much fun, and I was actually like pretty decent at it. So after that 1 or 2 games, I was like, man, I really love this, but I had a lot of opportunity to play football. I had like scholarships and stuff. So I was like pretty committed to that. I couldn't really pursue like a rugby career. And so I didn't even know that rugby careers existed. I thought it was just, for fun.
Yeah.
So years and years later, I've kind of like fell out of love with football. Some stuff happened. I decided to, take a break and just focus on my studies.
Yeah.
And, so that coach that I played for the one game in high school, I started dating his daughter. And he
was cool with it.
He was cool with it. Yeah, he actually like really enjoyed that. He was like, man, you were so good. Like, yes, you can date my daughter.
You have the permission.
So over time, we spent like a little, more and more time together.
Yeah.
And they're from New Zealand, and that's their national sport. So he like roped me right in. He was like, wow, like you should give it a try again. Like, try it out. And it's not like a super like heavy commitment either. Like at the time, it's like, club sports and intramural. Like there's no stress over it, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it out.
Yeah.
Tried it out, and then the professional league started. I got scouted and then signed like a couple of weeks later, like after that. So
amazing. It's crazy sometimes, Dan, how life does these things. You weren't even really thinking about rugby. You're waiting in the hospital with a sling, and the next thing you know, you're dating your daughter and you're playing rugby, and you get pretty good at it, right? I think again, this is why life is a journey. You just never know what's going to happen along that journey. But I think in that process, you have moved back to Delaware, right? Your senior year.
Yes, I did.
Of high school. So, and then that was, you talked about it kind of for a chance to earn a college scholarship. And so when you're going to college and you're thinking about not even probably playing rugby, right? Because you were thinking about football at the time. And then, it sounds like you said, you know what, hey, I really like rugby, right? And it's something that I kind of want to pursue. And guess what? I'm pretty good at it. So for you, I mean, would you say the transition was hard for you to just kind of go kind of full-time thinking into rugby? Did you miss football at all? Like what was going through your mind?
So I think the hardest part was like, okay, after you have a good game.
Yeah.
And you're like, because my whole family's they all love football, basketball, like the American sports.
Right.
The hardest part was going to them like, oh, I had a good game. And they're like, what? Like, what did you do?
Right. They're like, wait, what?
I did this. Or like, I have no idea what that is, but all right, cool. Good job.
It makes sense, but they're not used to it, right? And most people, unfortunately, I don't think are, unless you have like a rugby family, because especially in America, you're not like, I'm in DC. I can count the amount of rugby games Malacchi that I've been to, right? Like it's not something that you see everywhere.
Yeah, but the skill set was it transitioned pretty well.
Yeah,
I think that once I did decide, like I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to learn. It was pretty easy for me to like absorb all the information and skill set and stuff like that. And then the one game, the two games that I played in high school helped a lot as well, with just like the basic little skills, you know.
Right. And I'm sure you learn a lot because, I mean, you were playing, let's say you talked about being a top tier college athlete, right? University of Miami, University of Central Florida, but then you became a University of Miami crossover rugby athlete.
Yeah.
So you're playing at a top tier school. And I think when you think about football, I mean, there's some similar things when you think about rugby. They're taking all these skills and tools and then you're switching over to rugby and telling my family, hey, now you got to root for Malacchi Esdale, the rugby player, you know. Exactly. But again, I'm still an athlete and I'm still playing a sport that I love and doing what I love, which I'm so happy that you touched on. I can just tell the gleam, you know, when you're talking about this. And I can tell I can tell rugby was truly meant for you. So we go from college to playing professionally. So first you started with the amateur club, right? With the Orlando Griffins playing center back in 2017. Then you signed with the Houston SaberCats in August 2017. But let's talk about first playing the amateur level. You know, what was that experience like for you? And how did you kind of continue to grow and develop as a rugby player on the amateur level?
It was good. Playing at the, I mean, it's like, it's one and the same, except the paycheck. That's the only thing that's different.
Yeah, like, I'm sure the paycheck's a lot nicer now, right?
Yeah, but like playing at the amateur level, it taught me a lot about like the camaraderie and stuff and the brotherhood of like being on a rugby team. Because the one like major difference between football and rugby, I would say, is the culture. Like the culture is insane. So we have a little tradition. So if you're right after a match, you, after you get done like beating the crap out of each other, you go take the other team to go drink with you and like eat dinner. Yeah. So
nice.
I never experienced that in my entire life. And that was like one of the things that I like really enjoyed about the game. I was like, okay, we get to drink with the other team. That's cool.
Yeah, that doesn't always happen in other sports.
Exactly. No, it doesn't.
You're maybe trying to stop a brawl, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, meet me in the parking lot after the game. Like, no, I'll meet you at the bar though. Like, we'll do that.
That is huge.
So yeah, and then the transition to the professional atmosphere was a good one. Like again, I started at the base, so we really laid the foundation, and it's grown so much since then. It's just become more and more professional and more TV deals and more sponsorships and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see it grow the way it has, and being a part of the original players in that league. It's really cool. Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. I really like that though, going out for beers after you beat the other guys up. So I'm assuming all of you almost have a high tolerance then, right?
Yes, we can all. Yes.
It's just needed.
I'll leave it at that.
And then going off of that, now let's talk about playing with the Houston SaberCats, playing wing. Of course, I know you're most recently playing with them, a part of Major League Rugby. And let's talk about just what that experience has been like, because obviously that experience helped to propel you now to play for the USA Rugby team. Yeah,
it was cool. So obviously I'm meeting a bunch of people from all over the place. And so I was very new to the sport. You know, I'd just seen like YouTube clips, and I don't even think I watched like a full match like live ever, you know, before I started playing. So there are people out there that are like, you know, the Kobe Bryants of rugby, and I had the privilege of playing with one of those people. His name was USA Rugby.
Yeah.
He won his country of Fiji their first ever medal in the Olympics, and it was a gold medal. So
nice. That's a good first medal.
Yeah, it was not bad. So he captained that team in 2016 Rio Olympics.
Wow.
And he ended up being placed on their currency, like their money.
Wow.
So I'm like really like teammates with a real like superstar.
Yeah, like huge. My face is all money that y'all are spending, y'all. Like that's
that's a big deal. So so playing with them was man, it was amazing. You got to meet a bunch of different people, and then with that, you're playing with a bunch of different people. So you're picking up different skill sets from, different parts of the world, like all over the place. And this was 4 years ago. And some of these guys are like, still like some of my best friends, and we keep in contact every day. So it was amazing. And then the gameplay was, it's getting better every single year. So the pace of the game, the speed, the skill set, everything is improving. Right. So it's good. And like I can't like emphasize enough how much like it has grown like since the beginning. Like we were like trying to find pitches to like play on essentially. And now we have, our own stadium.
That is amazing. So, I'm gonna have to get out to a stadium. And I feel like, so for those that like just haven't again experienced rugby, where are some of these stadiums that we can go to watch the game of rugby?
So here in San Diego, the San Diego Legion, they use USD's soccer pitch, but when they come through, it is the San Diego MLR's stadium, and they do a good job of selling that out every time.
Amazing.
Houston, the Houston stadium, they just built that last year, I believe.
Yeah,
and that's off the 288.
Yeah, so there you go, y'all.
Yeah, and that stadium is beautiful. The capacity is like 10,000 people, and they do a good job of selling it out and getting the crowd riled up and everything like that. A lot of people are just following suit with that. They're building their own stadiums and stuff. So
that's huge. I think it's huge for the game. I think about DC, even when we welcome championship teams to the White House, like we need to make this a thing, right? With rugby, where the teams are coming to meet the president of the United States. But again, it's exciting to see this. So I was so glad to have you on. You are the first rugby athlete I've had on the show, but definitely not the last. So you're setting the precedent for it. And again, just kind of continuing to give that exposure. And then again, to stay on your story, you got promoted to the U.S. National Team's Elite Athlete Training Center residency, right? In Chula Vista last year. What was that experience like for you, kind of training among the best of the best?
It was cool. Obviously I'm rubbing shoulders with a lot of Olympic athletes that are in other sports as well. So it's been like a real good culture shock, and just to know that you're around like greatness, like people striving for the same goal.
Right.
It's been unbelievable. And then you have everyone in a like mindset, and then couple that with like great facilities. Atmosphere, like you're gonna do well. So I've seen my improvements in myself, like the strides are amazing, like with my growth. So it's been good. It's been a really good experience through and through. So I'm happy about it.
Huge. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I plan to continue that as long as I can. So I'm glad I'm here.
Great. And I was just say, just following up on that for those that don't know the sport of rugby as much, let's talk about the training. Like what goes into rugby training? What exactly are you doing as a rugby athlete?
I can give you the full schedule if you want.
give us the full schedule. Like what's a day in Malacchi?
So 7 a.m. wake up, breakfast, like 45 minutes later. During COVID, they broke up the workout groups into like 2 separate groups just to like avoid contract chasing and stuff like that. So right after breakfast, you do a lift, a workout, and then after that, you do a skills so you'll probably end that at like 9:30.
Okay.
Then you go for like a film session.
Okay.
/ snack, and then after that, you have like 30 minutes to take a nap if you want to. And then our second session of the day, which includes either contact, or more skills and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then you go to lunch, and then the same like break period. You get a snack, lunch, nap if you want to, and then the last session of the day. So we end up finishing at like 4. So it's like 7 to 4, 3 sessions a day, and you get the facilities, they have like the cafeteria and everything like that.
Yeah.
Hot and cold tubs, so you can everything is on site, so you can everything is
nice.
for you. Yeah. It's a long day though.
I'm sure, right? You're doing so much, but again, it just sounds like, I mean, that's how you get to the top level though, right? You have to put a lot of work in, and of course you reap the benefits of it. But again, congratulations on getting that residency. I know then you had 7 honors with the USA Falcons, but that's something interesting in your background. Believed to have signed the first American sponsorship contract with the American Rugby Company at Noodle Bags. I thought about what you said earlier about the ramen. So tell us about Noodle Bags and this kind of sponsorship deal and how it came together.
Oh man, Noodle Bags is great. So my agent kind of facilitated that for me. Noodle Bags is a swimwear company. It is in America, it's a risque.
Now we have to check out Noodle Bags.
Nah, but they're all good people. I'm like so glad that I got to sign with them and become friends with them. They come from the same rugby background that I do. A lot of them played rugby as well, so they show a lot of support.
So they understand.
Yeah, no, so they're at all the matches they can come to. They're supporting me in future endeavors, whether that's rugby or whether it's something else. And those guys are awesome. So I owe a lot to them. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure. So you start playing rugby, now you have a sponsorship deal. Like, how cool is that, right?
It's cool. It is very cool.
It shows how you're just growing your brand, right? I think that's something too that needs to happen as we think about growing the sport of rugby. We know sponsorships are huge for athletes, right? To kind of get more recognition and more visibility. So I hope the sport of rugby continues to kind of get those great deals. And shout out to your agent for facilitating that. And then, outside of rugby, you kind of have an entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yes, I do.
From what I've heard. So tell me this, you're launching a vegan farmer. Are you launched a vegan farmers market in San Diego?
Yes. So the first, we actually already launched it as me and my partner. So the first event was August 8th. So I am vegan. Yeah, I am vegan. So I just wanted to create something that just brought the community together, and then just make it like an eclectic kind of style. A lot of people, when they think of farmers markets, they just walk through and then they leave. They leave with their fruits and vegetables, whatever. I wanted to make it so it was like an event almost.
That's
you can stay, listen to music, look at some art, get some good food, make conversation, sit down and chill out. So the first one was August 8th. We're going to continue doing that every second Sunday of the month.
Okay.
And the first one was good. We had over 500 people in attendance.
That's great. It's time to start.
Nah, it was good. It was good. It was good. It was a beautiful day.
Amazing.
And so I want to potentially move it around and, maybe bring one back to my hometown. Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We're trying to set a standard out here, and San Diego's a good place to do it. It's beautiful. There's
great people, weather, great people.
Exactly. A lot of great restaurants as well. So it's good. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And let's talk about, you said you're vegan. When did kind of the decision to become vegan happen for you?
I was vegan for the first time 4 years ago. So while I was playing football, I went vegan. I stopped for a little bit just because I don't think I was I just didn't have enough knowledge on the subject. So I wasn't eating the correct way to supplement my weight and stuff. So I was losing weight because I wasn't eating the right stuff. So I took a little bit of a break just to gain some more knowledge on it. And, I've been vegan now for a year and a half.
That's good. Yeah.
And it feels amazing.
Can't help a healthy body, right? Healthy mind, body, spirit, and soul. It's great to hear. Great to hear that you're sharing this experience now with others. And then also, as I understand it, have you gotten into fashion modeling and graphic design as well?
Yes, a little.
Yeah, I've done my research on it.
Yeah.
This is cool. So you're a well-versed human being now. You're more than an athlete, right? So you're into modeling, graphic design. I feel like you're one that nobody can truly put inside a box, which is exceptional and I think a great thing.
Yeah, you gotta have a good skill set in life, and I've always prided myself on being pretty diverse, whether it be my personal background or the things that I like to do. So you can never have too many skills. So
it's true. It's true. And who knows, you always want to have different titles. And who knows, when you hang up your rugby, your rugby gear, you might get into something else and then you have experience. And people say, well, look, he's done this before, right? He's not a newbie. Yeah. And we'd love to have him on the team. And then again, just talking about how cool you are, Malacchi. I think something else, I saw some of your past interviews and you mentioned in 10 years, you see yourself being a chef. So when I ask you, what's your favorite dish that you like to cook?
I just cooked some crazy stuff last night, actually. It's funny that you say that because I forgot about that dream, but it's still in the back of my head. Dang. So my family, my background is Italian and Jamaican.
Okay.
And then my grandma got remarried to a Greek man and he's a chef. So
wow, yeah.
Growing up, he owned 2 like Mediterranean restaurants. So I really like that style of food. So I can cook up like pasta. I cooked up like a really good pasta, vegan feta cheese, Greek meatballs last night. It was.
Oh, that sounds so good. Fantastic. So after games, everybody goes to your house, right? We're eating well.
I'm cooking for 1, maybe 2.
And maximum, no, not for all of y'all. That sounds delicious. And then I also know you said if you were not playing rugby, you'd probably be playing tennis. Where did the love of tennis come in?
Yo, my brother actually like got me into that.
Yeah.
So he plays football at West Virginia University.
Okay.
Amazing athlete, but he like randomly just picked up a tennis racket and was like super good at it. So like me being as competitive I am, and like you can't beat me. Like we like would just go to the park on like random days and play tennis for like a few hours and just I don't know. We got kind of good at it and it's pretty fun. So.
I love that. I love that. Again, just you're multi-dimensional, right? You can't be so box. Exactly. And it's great to see. And then something else I thought that was really interesting is that you said you're not materialistic, which I think is something I think people like to put athletes in boxes and think that they all are, but I think it's refreshing probably to some that you hear that. You seem like you're just very cool, very chill, right? You're not into kind of just buying all the fancy things, which I think is different than what we see on social media when we see so many athletes. And it's not wrong, right? Hey, if you have it, buy it, right? If you're able to. Yeah. It seems like for you just kind of you get the things you need, it sounds like in life, right?
No, definitely, yeah. I think that's super important. I'm just not materialistic at all. I'm very minimalistic and simple about that stuff. So I think that I do like nice things. I'm not gonna lie. Like I do like
we all do, nothing wrong with that.
But not if I don't need it, I probably won't get it. And I don't need anything in surplus. Like I have enough, I'd rather give it to somebody else and pass that on to somebody else. So
it's fantastic. I think that's a great way to be. And of course, I know today is a big day for rugby. 2021 National Sevens Championship kicked off today, right? It was at 9 a.m. Pacific time, live streamed live on the Rugby Network. How exciting is that? Did you get a chance to catch anything?
It's good. I didn't. I got a late start this morning, but
we won't tell.
I have a lot of friends that are playing in it right now, and good luck to all of them. And I know they're gonna ball out. So they're growing the sport just the same way that we all are. So. And that's the next stage. Like if you want to play for the national team, you're going to play for one of these clubs and try your best. And you're going to try to catch somebody's eye and make the team. So that's good.
Never know what can happen.
I'm gonna catch the next couple of games though.
There you go. He's gonna watch the next couple of games. Malacchi, so it's been such a pleasure having you on. Before I let you go, can you let people know if they're interested in rugby now after hearing from this interview? Tell them all the details when they can start watching you back in action, when the season starts, where they can kind of follow along.
Yeah, of course. We have the HSB 7 series coming up. So we're gonna finish out the year.
Yeah.
6 stops. Our first tour is in I feel like it's Vancouver and then Edmonton, and that's gonna start September, like the middle of September, and then we're back at it full swing. So if you can catch one of those games, there's gonna be a lot of action. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Exciting. Stay tuned. Again, thanks so much for joining. I know you're probably still just decompressing from Tokyo, that time difference and everything that happened. For everyone out there, we've been trying to plan this interview for a while, so I'm so glad that it could happen. Such a joy and pleasure to have you on. We're wishing you the best of success in the rest of your professional career, and keep cooking, keep doing the vegan market, keep modeling and everything else that you're doing. Keep drawing with graphic design. We'll be watching. Again, Malacchi Esdale, thanks so much for joining me live on Listening with KNN. So appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Have a great one. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thanks again so much for tuning into this live stream edition. Again, I want to thank my team so much, and I want to thank you, all my loyal listeners. It was great, right, to be introduced to the sport of rugby. We definitely will have more rugby players on the show, but also to have an Olympian on the show to talk about his overall experience in Tokyo. So again, shout out to Team USA. Congrats to Team USA, right? We were first in the medal count and first in the gold count. So the United States of Golds is basically what we will be calling ourselves from now on. But again, thanks so much, guys. We'll be back Thursday at 6 p.m. Enjoy the preseason games. We're ready for football. So exciting that football is back and so much more. We'll be also bringing on some more football athletes on the show. I think you guys are going to like some of my upcoming guests, as well as some former basketball stars. All right. So we have a lot of great guests coming up. Again, thanks so much to my team. Thanks so much to my new interns for being incredible and amazing. And again, thanks to you all. So we'll see you all Thursday at 6 p.m. Until then, stay safe. Mask up, and again, be sure to always keep in touch and listen in with KNN. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio now offers official Kelsey Nicole Nelson apparel in a variety of styles for men and women. Fashionable shirts, leggings, hats, jackets, and more. Order now and get 15% off and free shipping. Just enter promo code KNN. Get your Listen In with KNN wearables today. And check out Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio with Kelsey Nicole Nelson.